There's a certain kind of person who falls in love the way most people fall asleep, slowly, then all at once, in a direction they did not entirely choose. And when it ends, when the pattern becomes visible in hindsight, the world tends to offer one of two things: pity or judgment. You always do this. Why do you keep choosing people like that? As if the heart were simply careless. As if love were a decision made at a desk, in good lighting, with all the information laid out. But you already know it does not work that way. You already know that something else is happening, something quieter, something that goes much deeper than a bad decision. What we are talking about, and what almost no one explains correctly, is the psychology of people who find themselves drawn to love that costs more than it gives. Not because they are naive, not because they lack intelligence or self-worth, but because something inside them learned very early on what love is supposed to feel like, and that lesson became their compass. Psychologists have a term for this: repetition compulsion. First described in depth by Freud, it was later expanded by attachment researchers, neurobiologists, and developmental psychologists. The idea is both simple and profound. When early emotional experiences, especially from caregivers, involved inconsistency, emotional unpredictability, or conditional affection, the nervous system does not file this away as damage, it files it away as normal, as familiar, as the baseline for what connection feels like. Helen Fisher, a biological anthropologist at Rutgers, found through brain imaging studies that romantic love activates the same dopaminergic pathways as addiction. The reward circuitry does not distinguish between what is healthy and what is familiar. It responds to intensity, to the chase, to the relief that comes after uncertainty. And so when a person whose early environment was unpredictable encounters someone who offers that same emotional rhythm, available then distant, warm then cold, the nervous system does not sound an alarm, it feels something closer to recognition. This is not a character flaw. It is a nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do. Research in developmental psychology, particularly work building on Mary Ainsworth's attachment studies from the 1970s, showed that children who grew up in homes where love was conditional or inconsistent developed what is called an anxious or disorganized attachment style. The child learned that love requires effort, that closeness is earned, not given, that when someone pulls away, the correct response is to try harder, not to rest. These children grew into adults who feel most alive when there is something to work toward. And in love, they unconsciously seek out that same emotional terrain. This is where it is important to say something clearly. This is not a weakness. It is a survival strategy that outlived its original environment. The mind is adaptive. It looked at chaos and learned to navigate it. It developed a heightened sensitivity to emotional cues, a radar for shifts in mood, an almost preternatural ability to read what another person needs. These are not small things. These are capacities that take a lifetime for some people to develop, if they develop them at all. The cost is that they became tuned to turbulence, and turbulence began to feel like love. Here's the part people rarely talk about. There is often a quiet, counterintuitive logic at the center of these patterns. Many people who are drawn to unavailable partners, emotionally distant, inconsistent, or complicated people, are not at their core drawn to pain. They are drawn to the possibility of transformation. Somewhere in the subconscious is a belief, rarely articulated, that if they can get this person to truly show up, something will be healed. Not just the relationship, something older, something from before. It is not irrational. It is, in fact, deeply human. The brain is a pattern completion machine. It sees an unfinished story and reaches for an ending. The person who could not make a parent feel safe, who could not earn the consistent love they deserved as a child, carries that unresolved story into adulthood. And when they meet someone who resembles the emotional architecture of that original wound, not in appearance, not even in behavior necessarily, but in feeling, the nervous system says, "This time we finish the story." The tragedy is not that they keep trying. The tragedy is that the wrong stage cannot host the right ending. And yet, none of this means these individuals are broken.
None of it means they are destined to remain inside the pattern forever. Awareness, as any good therapist will tell you, is not the same as cure, but it is the beginning of something. When you can see the shape of a pattern, you stop mistaking it for fate. You begin to understand that the pull toward a certain kind of love is not evidence that you were made for suffering. It is evidence that you were made to heal something. The question only becomes whether that healing needs to happen inside a relationship or before you enter one. There is no single answer. Different people arrive at wholeness through different paths. Some find that the patterns shift gradually, almost without noticing, as life experience and self-knowledge accumulate. Others need the formal container of therapy to make the invisible visible. Some simply grow into a love that surprises them precisely because it does not feel like coming home. It feels like arriving somewhere new. What is worth knowing and worth sitting with is this: the fact that you have loved in ways that cost you something does not mean you loved wrong. It means you loved fully, with everything your history gave you to work with. And that is not a small thing. That has never been a small thing. If something in what you just heard felt familiar, not just intellectually, but somewhere quieter, there may be another layer worth exploring. The psychology of how we love is only part of the story. What we do with that understanding is something else entirely.